Egyptian artifacts make absolutely zero sense, and archaeologists might just be afraid of being wrong.
My name's Joe. It's been a minute since I posted on here. Real life and stuff has happened. So just a little bit of background. I have degrees in archaeology and history, bachelor's degrees. I am not a professional archaeologist, but I do like using my degrees whenever I can, right? So I saw this video and I thought I'd respond. I've seen a couple of the users' videos and I have a feeling I know what I'm getting myself into, but I thought I'd see what was going on. So let's take a look at some of the things he said. Archaeologists aren't really afraid of being wrong. Like any other social science or any other hard science, they don't want to be wrong. That's why peer-reviewed articles exist. It's so that people can put their thoughts and their hypotheses and their theories into writing in an educational and formal format so that somebody can disagree with them, so they can be proven wrong. That's the whole purpose of writing and doing this work and studying archaeology and history in the first place. We're always wrong. People are always wrong about something, and there's always some new form of evidence that pops up and says, hey, well, maybe if you had thought about it this way, then you would see that this artifact or this line of thinking is actually meant to be this. That's it. We're not afraid. Archaeologists aren't afraid of being wrong. They just don't want to be, like any other science or any other profession, really.
What's strange is that as time went on, their artifacts somehow got less and less advanced. The Egyptian Empire reigned for about 3,000 years.
I think that the idea that this creator has that Egypt became less technologically advanced as time progressed is a bit of a misnomer. Just like with any other civilization, you see that like scientific processes or technological processes might not survive just because they're not viable anymore. The source material may have run out, or it's just too time consuming. And so when you really think about it, sometimes those just get lost. They run out of fashion.
This round vase perfectly balancing itself dead center on a point no larger than the tip of an egg. Except this isn't your pottery class vase made of clay. It's granite. And granite is harder than steel.
So with this specific granite pottery, I think context is everything, but a lot of this pottery, the majority of it was found at religious sites. The Step Pyramid of Saqqara, the Pyramid of Giza, these were made for religious context and votive offerings, right? And I think in modern times, we have a hard time understanding just how complex the ancient world was, especially in a religious context, right? Like we have the Pope, the Catholics have the Pope, and that is something similar, but in the ancient world, especially in Egypt, where the pharaoh was the link between the everyday person and the gods, he was the physical embodiment of the will of the gods. What he said was what the gods wanted. What he did was what the gods wanted him to do, and there was no questioning that in most instances. An artisan, your job was to make these bowls, and your job was to make them perfect for your pharaoh and for your god, more importantly. Like, that was your one task. And so you would have gone through thousands and thousands of trials and errors and things that would have been destroyed, things that you won't find because they would have been used as rubble blocks or other waste items. And we kind of forget that because our culture is so consumer based. We want it now, and then it's gonna go in the rubbish, right? Like our iPhones, our computers, all of that. We want it until the next one comes out and then it's gone. And that just wasn't the case in the ancient world because it would take months to years or even decades to construct and build some of these things.
Absolutely no one can explain how these lug handles were made.
In 1983, an article came out called Ancient Egyptian Stone Drilling, an Experimental Perspective on a Scholarly Disagreement, in which scientists tried to show how these handles would have been drilled into some of these harder granite vases. And they came to the conclusion that one, diamond or corundum could have been used as a drill bit of sorts, and two, that something like a watery substance or olive oil may have been used as a lubricant in order to make those holes. Again, it just takes time and effort and energy, something that these artisans all had plenty of.
There's also the schist disc crafted from a single piece of stone. Tell me, what kind of stone can be shaped like this by hand? No.
The schist disc, as he calls it, or better known as a sabu disc, is made out of schist, which is a now kind of defunct Egyptological term for like siltstone. It's very fine, it's very fragile, it can break very easily. And so again, context is everything. This was found in a tomb of an Egyptian official called Sabu. That's why it's called Sabu's disc. And while its use is debated amongst scholars, some say that its use was for an oil lamp. Others have said that it was purely decorative, purely votive. In 2022, a scholarly article written by Akio Kato, a mathematician at Kanagawa University in Japan, hypothesized that the Sabu disc may have actually been a tool used to make beer. And if you know anything about Egyptian history, beer is very important. It was an everyday staple. Anywhere that grains and cereals can be grown, beer is a very big part, and Egypt was no exception to that. So it's very likely that this could have been a ceremonial beer-making tool, or it could have been an actual beer-making tool. There is evidence that it has been broken and repaired multiple times, which does lend to this possibility of it being of actual use.
Statues, and these somehow make even less sense.
Once, I'll say it again, it was a lot of trial and error. That's how everything works. It's how it worked in the ancient world. It's how it works today. You make things, you fail, and then you make them better. You don't need to have machines to do this. You just need to be good at what you do. You need to be skilled at what you do. And these artisans were extremely skilled at what they did, but it took trial and error and time. I mean, look at the pyramids, for example, right? Like, they didn't just build the Great Pyramid of Giza or the Pyramid Complex. They went through hundreds of years worth of trial and error to get from the Step Pyramid to Giza. And just to get to the Step Pyramid in general. There are ruins of pyramids dotted throughout Egypt that show this progression, where they finally built the perfect pyramids. That is time and trial and error. That's what it comes down to. So two important things to remember about this is that the First and Second Dynasty had a combined longevity of 450 years. That's a long time for any civilization to use a technology, especially if it is purely for a religious context, and to not stop using it. And number two, and more importantly, is the First and Second Dynasty were pre-unification of Egypt. And when the Third Dynasty began, the capital moved to Memphis, which was the boundary between Upper and Lower Egypt, and it had a whole new family system, a whole new religious context, and so some of those things that may have been very, very important before, like the granite pottery and the votive offerings and things like that, may just have fallen out of fashion. I said it so many times in this video already, and I feel like I'm just gonna overuse it, but it really does come down to time, trial and error, and expertise. These people were experts in their craft. It's like Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, or ancient Greek artisans creating their statues. That's the level of expertise that these people were at. But for some reason, we have a hard time of giving them their due because we can't understand how they did it technologically. You don't need machines to make works of art. I know modern society, that's exactly where we go to, but all you really need is the time. And these people were extremely well paid for what they were doing. They were well taken care of. They were the ones who were creating the buildings and the statuary and the offerings for their gods and the pharaohs. The next living thing to a god that you can possibly be in the ancient world in Egypt. So if you were going to do something like that for your god, for your pharaoh, you were going to do it right. And you were going to do it as perfect as you possibly could because it mattered. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you some insight into the ancient world, and thanks for watching. Bye.